Did you know that 90% of the world's millionaires invest in real estate? Well, I'm Angel with the Academy Presents Real Estate Investing Rocks, and I'm here to help you if you want to go for your piece of that pie.
MHAs is the Mobile Home Association, just like there's RIAs in a lot of different markets, Real Estate Investment Association. There's MHAs in each state, and there's a lot of opportunity there to not only learn and grow, but just to network. I mean, there's so many resources and people who are in that if you need any questions answered, especially if you're trying to learn the business, being part of that MHA is pretty big. And then, stick-built homes, just like a lot of us know with sticks, 2x4s, and then, maybe brick around them or whatever. Just those are stick-built homes. And a lot of times the parks will have a single-family home, maybe where when it was constructed, the owner lived there and then managed the whole entire park, right? Sometimes there's a duplex, sometimes there's a fourplex, sometimes you'll have like a small apartment complex on the site. So it really depends, but a lot of times there are those homes. And most likely that's a stick-built home situated in a mobile home park won't get the same amount of rent as the same exact stick-built home, half a mile down the road in like a nice neighborhood. If it's the same exact thing, usually if it's right in a mobile home community, it's not going to get the same amount of rent as if it was outside, like in a nicer neighborhood. So
I have a question. When you said that you created the notes for like the lease to own, now it's my understanding that mobile homes have a title versus a deed. So how does that work?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So there is a title, just like a vehicle. These mobile homes are a depreciating asset, just like a car, right? Which is another reason why we don't like holding on to them. It's an asset that depreciates. So the title holder is the one whoever holds the lien. Just like on a car. I mean, if they own the mobile home, we hold on to the title until it's fully owned outright from them, but they're required to get insurance and take care of all the taxes and maintenance and all that stuff. Just like you are for your home. If you live in your home or if you own your car, you are responsible for paying taxes and paying insurance and paying for all the maintenance. It's the same thing. So just like you said, there's a title, just like a vehicle. And depending on the newer ones, there are some newer ones with like different HUD restrictions and wind zones and stuff that are in the different areas of the U.S. But yeah, just like you said, there's a title. Just because it is considered a vehicle, it's a depreciating asset. Well, let's talk about the ways to find deals, and this is a little bit different, but very similar to apartment complexes. So, whether you're interested in mobile home parks or not, this is a good way just to find deals in general. So, kind of just like you've heard of maybe LoopNet or Zillow, another public listing site for mobile home parks is the mobilehomeparkstore.com. And so, a lot of people think, LoopNet has this bad reputation and this is where deals go to die, right? But a lot of times, because it has this stigma and this reputation, a lot of investors overlook deals on LoopNet and they're not even paying attention to it, right? So not only is it great for practicing, maybe just analyzing deals and getting your reps in, and just you have to analyze a lot of deals in order to get good at analyzing deals, right? So a lot of times LoopNet listings have the financials right there ready for you to just do a full underwriting. But at the same time, and this is actually the next thing, is LoopNet is a great place. Mobile Home Park Store is a great place. Corexy is a great place to find brokers, which is the second place. Connecting with brokers. One of my mentors told me, one broker could make you wealthy, right? One broker could assist your financial freedom journey and make you very, very wealthy. Nice. There's a lot of brokers out there who are straight salesmen. That's kind of what they do. They only get paid if it closes. So a lot of them will just kind of tell you whatever you need to tell you, whatever they need to tell you in order to just get the deal closed, right? But some brokers are great, and building relationships with the right brokers is what we do to find some of our deals. And then some of them are just other creative ways that we find our deals. But, the keys to broker relationships is trying to get them to show you their pocket listings or their off market listings, right? Where it's not just, hey, I'm listing it on LoopNet, or I'm listing it on Crexy, or I'm listing it on my brokerage site where everybody sees it, because those are, especially right now, those are not considered deals. People who buy those deals either negotiate those deals way down or they overpay, right? So the goal is to get the pocket listings or the off market listings. In order to do that, you just need to prove to the broker that it's worth their time to spend with you, right? Because again, they don't get paid unless they close, unless you close the deal. So you have to prove to them, A, you have the capacity to close the deal by showing them you know what you're talking about, you know exactly what you're looking for, you know your exact criteria, you have the cash or you have access to capital to close the deal, and then you know what strategy is you're going to implement, you know what exit strategy you're going to use, and proving that to them and then following up is key. And that is how you kind of get on that pocket listing side, and you know, could have the broker show you those off market deals. So Angel, do you have anything you want to add or any questions from the group?
I am not seeing any. I'll just kind of add to the pocket listing idea too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you're shopping at a jewelry store or like a boutique clothing store, and the owner, like you're there enough that the owner gets to know you and know who you are and what your tastes are, they're going to be more likely to hold stuff back for you. So it's, if people have a hard time understanding like what a pocket listing is, it's kind of like your broker is holding stuff back because they know what you like and they know what your capabilities are. And so they're holding that back for you.
And if you know, you let them know what your exact criteria is and they don't have anything, but 3 weeks later you follow up with them and then boom, all of a sudden they have a deal that meets your criteria, who are they going to think of? You know, you're the one that gave them your exact, explicitly clear criteria, and you followed up. You know, just because they don't have a deal right now for you doesn't mean that they in 2 weeks they won't, you know. So it's really important to do that. And you know, the other thing is really, really, really important that I can't stress enough. The people who you like, brokers, property managers, any kind of agent or investor or partners, you know, the key is to partner with these people. And the key is to get to know them and be interested in what they want out of the transaction. It's not about you. It's about how could you partner together to get to the same finish line, right? And if a broker sees that you're like interested in what their goals are and what they want and how they got into real estate and, you know, some of the ways they struggle and overcame them and their successes, and do they invest and what do they like to do for fun? You're going to not only build a bond, but they're going to think about you when they have a deal that meets your criteria because you took the time to be interested in them and get to know them a little bit. This is a relationship business. Building relationships with everybody that you come into contact with in this industry is just going to put you at a huge advantage. So, you know, don't forget about that relational aspect. It's super important.
Yeah, well, and one of my little tips that I kind of throw out there, and I probably shouldn't ever tell anybody about it, but in my own personal database, I have a column that is like weird fact or like something that kind of sets that person apart in my memory, and I'll put that down. So, you know, if it's something like left-handed person, or this person grew up in such and such town, or we have this mutual friend, and I put something over there in that column that makes that person stand out in my mind. So there's always that relatability factor, because that's I think that's really huge when you're trying to build relationships quickly. It's becoming very relatable very quickly, and gosh, just be genuine, be yourself, be authentic, because humans weed that out, and you can just tell, and it's really off-putting when someone is clearly trying to be something they're not. So
that's so amazing, and that's such a great idea. You know, I don't have a system down like that, but a lot of times when I save, you know, a contact in my phone, I'll say, hey, he's an investor and he's active duty or this and that. And then I usually try to have something that, like you said, that helps them stick out, that I could, you know, when I go touch base with them, I could bring that up and help break the ice and help them understand that I actually remembered that and that it means something to them. Because like I said, man, people could see right through, you know, disgenuine behavior. And so Another thing that I do every single holiday season, I will handwrite cards to everybody that I did business
Nice.
with and send them out. And if I don't have their address, around Thanksgiving or a week later, hey man, could I get your home address? And I have a list. Every single person, I literally handwrite those cards, and just that one little gesture goes a real long way.
Yeah, I did little Starbucks cards to all of my speakers from my last summit.
Nice.
And they did know because I was talking to people before Christmas, and so I sent them out for Christmas, and then the summit was in March. So that was my thing because I love Starbucks.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Oh, well, I have people that don't, and I'm just like, what is wrong with you?
Well, they're probably lying. Or they just don't like spending $5 for a cup of coffee. I mean, so this is another way to find mobile home park deals where you can find great deals. Direct mail from a list. There's all different ways you can get addresses and from public listing sites, and even if you pay like place like called List Source, where you could buy lists of property owners, and you just have a yellow letter. And the key thing about this, a lot of owners, especially from multifamily, both apartments and mobile home parks, they're probably getting a lot of letters, right? So again, you have to figure out what can you do that to help you be remembered, right? What could you do that others are not willing to do? And that's the handwriting letters, just being genuine, maybe adding a picture of yourself. And for us, it helps that we're active duty. We have a picture of us in uniform saying, hey, we're a military team. We're showing other investor or military personnel how to achieve financial freedom in real estate. We want to buy up as much of America as possible, especially if they're military or they're in a military family. That's an immediate bond. And then the key thing is, from that, the key thing is following up with a call, either cold calling just direct from that list, or sending them a letter, then a week or two later, following it up with a phone call. That is how you're remembered. You just track that marketing system where you send them a letter, then a week or two later, you cold call them, say, hey, I just sent you a letter. I'd love to speak to the owner. And if and when you're willing to sell, I'd love for you to think about us. We're looking to buy properties just like yours within the next year, blah, blah, blah. Either way, whatever your script is, there's tons of scripts out there, but you almost don't want it too scripted. You want it to be just genuine. It's about the relationships, the mom and pops that own the mobile home parks and the apartment communities that you're going to want to buy are people, and they put a lot of emotion and time into these assets. And a lot of times it's their only retirement plan for them and their kids and their legacy, and just taking the time to build that rapport and getting to know them, and then remembering something about them and calling them a month later, say, hey, I'm the one, I learned that you love NASCAR, or I learned that you do this, or that you also live in the same city, that whatever. And just building that rapport, following up. I mean, cold calling is a great way just to be yourself on the phone and just ask questions about them, about how they got into real estate, about the story behind their deal, and why are they selling. And just obviously you'll uncover a lot of, just asking really good questions, you'll uncover a lot of the story and maybe what motivates them. And getting to know them is not only going to build rapport, but it's also going to reveal that kind of their pain points, and letting them know that you're trying to come to the same finish line, that you could help them with their pain points. Maybe they just want to offer creative financing, but they need, or creative financing or seller financing, but they need like X amount of dollars in order to pay something off, or they need X amount of dollars per month. Getting to know them and what their pain points are by cold calling them and showing them that you actually care, that you're not trying to just to bring them down to the lowest amount of money. You're trying to get to the same finish line. You're trying to make a good deal. That's obviously going to help you, because not a lot of investors do that.
Yeah, it's that win-win situation. You want everybody to feel like they're coming out ahead.
Absolutely. And like we're working through a master lease option right now with like 100-unit apartment community, and we're kind of going back and forth, and they're in distress. Their expense ratio is like 120%. It's ridiculous.
Yikes.
And it's a huge liability for them. And we're working through a deal with them where it's like partially owner financing, but partially a master lease option, where they're still going to own it, but we're going to take it over. And then in about 2 years, we'll fully own it and pay them and buy them out. because they're in a really bad situation. So especially with COVID, where they didn't really know what to do and they didn't put the time in to figure that out and take care of the residents. So, but anyways, like driving for dollars, on its own, or, you send them a letter, you do cold calling, and then you drive for dollars and actually go to that property. Either you have someone go to the property or you personally go to the property, and, you knock on the maintenance or the manager's door, or you find the owner and you just, introduce yourself. Hey, I sent you a letter and I gave you a call. I'm just following up. We're really excited about this deal. We'd love to make a deal with you, blah, blah, blah. Just showing up and driving for dollars, not only to find deals that are just off market, that are not listed. Everything is for sale, guys. You have to understand everything is for sale. A lot of assets that, have owners that want to sell just don't know how to contact a broker and help them sell it, or they're not willing to contact a broker because the broker is going to charge them an arm and a leg and try to get too much of a commission. They don't want to pay a commission, so they just don't list it. But if you send them a letter, you give them a call, and you drive to them and say, hey, I'm genuine, I want to make a deal, they're going to be like, okay, well, what kind of offer, let's talk. Let's get into a negotiation. So, there is a little bit of a difference and a delta between mobile home park residents and apartment complex residents, especially the A and B class, and this is what we've learned over time and learning and understanding mobile home park tenants. And, ultimately, you have direct control of their lives. They have the same needs that we do. They want a nice, clean, safe place to live that's affordable to raise their family. And you guys have a direct impact on the lives of these residents. So, if you create a culture, like you're showing them that you actually care, that you want them to have a nice quality of life, that is contagious. That is going to spread. The culture is going to improve. They're going to tell all their friends and family, hey, I live in this mobile home park where the owner actually gives a shit, pardon my French, but
Oh, no,
that
absolutely.
is amazing. That's an amazing thing you could do just to prove that you care. And so keeping those residents is really important, and just doing what you say you're going to do. Let's say if it's a park owned home and, they have a leaky faucet or a broken toilet or a broken window, addressing it timely, let them know that you care, that, look, I want to make sure you have a good quality of life. And you want to be respected, but you don't want to be a bully, right? You want to be firm, with really evicting the bad people. And if they're not paying rent, but they're coming up with stories, no pay, no stay is in full effect, right? You can't just give in to that. I mean, it's one thing if they've been paying for 10 years and then all of a sudden they lost their job, and maybe they're actively looking for a job, and like, it's very situational based. But if it's a tenant that you don't really know, or they've just had a bad track record and they're kind of just coming up with stories, I mean, no pay, no stay, but you got to care about and be empathetic. And that's why I love the term empathetic capitalist. Being an empathetic capitalist is really important. And so how do you deal, with the riffraff? And the riffraff, that term is kind of like what the stigma is, right? Like the drugs, the gangs, the noisy late nights, all that crime and violence that everybody thinks that happens all the time in mobile home parks. And it's really, making sure that you don't allow any riffraff in. That's step one, is to make sure your tenant screening process is in place, that you're not just allowing the first person who gives you a wad of cash to move in. That's a huge red flag. If they don't pass a tenant screening policy, if they don't have proven income, if they've ever been evicted, that's a no-no. If the references aren't legit when you call them, if they have a terrible credit score, I mean, they got to pass a good tenant screening. But the ones who are already in there, how do you really get rid of them? No pay, no stay. If they're not complying with your lease agreement, if they have dogs on chains, they're staying up late at night, you have to enforce that. And that's another really good reason to have a relationship with people at City Hall, especially the law enforcement. And building relationships with people at City Hall is super, super important. I have actually a slide that I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But I mean, these are some things you could do. You just, of course, you want to be an empathetic capitalist. You want to be very reasonable, very fair, but you have to be firm, and you have to mean what you say. If you say, like, look, you can't do this or you can't do that, and if someone's doing it, you have to be firm and and handle it and address it. If you have to pull in law enforcement, do it. So any questions at all so far?
So I have one. So my grandparents self-managed. It's the reason why I will never self-manage. But
Yeah.
can you get management agencies for mobile home communities?
Yeah, that's a really, really, really good question. You know, there are some firms out there that actually offer management, like full-blown property management, like you would see in a lot of apartment complexes, and they'll even offer, like, due diligence assistance and construction management and reposition management for like big deep rehabs. um I have not found a good one. They're out there. I have made relationships with them, but we've never used them because we've always questioned it, because we do a lot of due diligence on these companies, and no one is all like, yeah, they're awesome, we used them, they're great. So that's actually one of the challenges is management, which I'll talk about a little bit more in depth in a second. But that's such a great question. So some of the kind of the challenges that owners face, like I said, it's not all rainbows and amazing, bright, sunny days at mobile home parks. There are some disadvantages to owning them, and reasons why some people who learn about them still don't move forward with them. And one of them is they're limited books. A lot of these moms and pops, keep their P&L or their rent rolls literally on a piece of paper or in like a basic Excel spreadsheet if you're lucky, right? And they're very limited. So it's really hard to like underwrite deals with accuracy because of that. So that's why we have to be super conservative. But it's just like a normal thing, with mobile home parks. It's just, you can't assume that they got really, really clean books.
Yeah. My grandparents had handwritten receipts.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
it was literally sheets of paper. And like, if someone came up to them, they could tell you how much the rent was for each unit.
Yeah.
But they couldn't tell you. I mean, they could be like, oh yeah, this person's been here for 10 years. This person's been here for 16 years. Oh,
Yeah.
This person just moved in. But there wasn't a lot of consistency to it, just because, I mean, my grandparents didn't even use a computer.
Yeah, exactly. You want to tell us about kind of the park and what their experience was in mobile home parks?
So the very first trailer that went out there was actually one that they had lived in while they were building their house. It was a single wide. It was a 3-bedroom. And I remember, I mean, you walked in the front door and there was the living room and the kitchen. It was almost like a long galley. So, you've got the living room, the kitchen, and then bedroom 1 to the right, walk down the hall, bedroom 2 to the right. And then at the very end was the master bedroom. So that was the first one. The next one was like a really small, and it was literally a travel trailer. And when my grandfather passed away a couple of years ago, I was going to take over some of that stuff. And the resident in that travel trailer had been there 16 years. Like, for real, 16 years.
I'm telling you, that's how long people stay in these parks, man.
Yeah, it was a long time. And then the one across from that was a little, it was a 2-bedroom, but my grandparents had, because they owned them all. So my grandparents had an additional bedroom built onto it. So it was like this hybrid apartment trailer thing with a porch.
Yeah.
And people really enjoy renting that one out. And then they had a double wide in the front that usually had families in it.
Yeah.
So, but since they owned them all, what they did was they put these huge carport type things over them to protect the roof.
Yeah.
And then they would put out clotheslines and things like that just to assist people.
Yeah.
At one point, they were going to do a small like washateria on site, but they never really got around to that. So it was lots of ideas. They wound up putting storage units in the back of the park.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
So
there's a lot of different ways to add value to parks, and one of the biggest ones right now is storage units. Creating those carports. And there's a lot of buildings that are existing in these mobile home parks that are just vacant and not occupied. There's no use for them. You could turn them into storage units, or you could turn them into some kind of community, or maybe like a laundry facility or something like that.
A lot of times the residents will rent the storage units from you.
No, exactly. You would put storage units in there for extra added value. They'll pay you another $50 a month or $100 a month or whatever.
Absolutely.
Because obviously we know people like hoarding stuff, and people have too much crap. And if they're in a mobile home park, and chances are they don't have space for all the stuff that they want to hang on to. So those are, again, a couple other things. The mom and pop parks usually a lot of those mom and pops would accept the first person to give them a lot of cash. So they don't have very good vetted tenants, and a lot of them are poorly vetted. So you are inheriting a lot of times some bad tenants. One of the biggest disadvantages is that the zoning, is either incorrect or it doesn't comply with new codes for the city. A lot of times, if there's a transaction, then everything has to be brought up to code. That's a huge thing. And with that, I'm going to say, a lot of people have questions on, hey, well, what about developing new parks? And so the zoning is going to be a key contributing factor here, why cities will both love them and hate them. And the reason why they don't like them is because if they have, 10, 20 acres, think about how many apartment units they could put on there and how much tax revenue they can get from that, versus if you have that same amount of land, a mobile home park, each individual trailer will have its own space. You can't stack them, so you can't put as many people in that trailer park, and there's a lot less tax revenue for the city. So unless it's already zoned as a mobile home park, it's nearly impossible to rezone something unless it's already zoned a mobile home park. But at the same time, if it is zoned a mobile home park, the cities love investors that go in there and create a nicer community and add value, because it is again, you're solving the affordable housing crisis that is probably happening in their city, but they don't want them to be new mobile home parks developed unless it's already zoned for it. So, a lot of the old utilities and infrastructures, your waters and your sewer, whether they're city or private, a lot of those are going to be high capital expenditures to repair. And so that's just another thing, especially if it's like septic tanks or wells or lagoon systems that haven't been cared for. And that's just the importance of due diligence. And, obviously due diligence is broken up into your market due diligence, your property due diligence, and your financial due diligence. It's really important to hit all those three.